We now bring you live to the Nottinghamshire press briefing on the economic state of affairs for the Shire and the surrounding areas.
This is Piers Plowman reporting live from inside King Richard's castle, where King Richard himself and his economic advisor Robin Hood are about to deliver a briefing on the economic state of affairs for the Shire. Oh, and it looks like they're about to get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we could please bring this meeting to order, I'd like to go ahead and get started with the briefing. My name is Robin Hood, and most of you know me. I am the Secretary of the Treasury for Nottinghamshire and the surrounding areas. To my right is King Richard, and today we are here to talk about the economic state of affairs for this area. Thank you for coming. Nice to be here. The format for today's briefing will be as follows. We will read a brief statement, followed by a period of time to take some of your questions. So let's go ahead and get started. This past year was a time of both ups and downs around the Shire. While certain sectors of our economy saw some gains, the overall direction of last year could be characterized as dark and bleak. As of December 31st, 1256, total adult population in the area was 1,206, which is down approximately 50% from last year at the same time, when the total adult population was 2,410. That's a decrease of approximately 1,204 adults. That number is made up of 120 move-outs, 202 banishments, and 802 deaths. Most of those deaths were due to the plague, but I should note that there were an abnormal number of deaths from catapult accidents, and that number was 137, which is up 17% from last year. Total combined income was down 44%. However, we did see a slight rise in income per capita, but that was mostly due to a decline in capita. Last year, the Shire lost 472 jobs, offset against a loss of 940 people in the labor force. Therefore, jobs per capita went up by nearly 50%. The average adult worker now holds 1.7 jobs. The strongest employment sector remains the area of righteous pillaging. The kingdom now employs nearly 600 pillagers. These are the individuals who steal from the rich and give to the poor. This has been a huge engine of growth for the Sherwood area. Tax revenue has been down now for the third straight year in a row, both due to tax relief enacted by King Richard, thank you, and as well as a significant decrease in the tax base. Welfare programs have expanded under the continuation of the wealth redistribution programs, which I have led for the past 5 years. This year alone, we redistributed 82% of the kingdom's wealth. However, despite expansion in the welfare programs, hunger has been rampant and overall wealth has decreased. I will now turn it over to King Richard for a few comments on the previous year.
Thank you, Robin. My good people, this past year has been devastating for us, despite the fact that we've seen no wars and no major weather disasters. Although the plague has been particularly harmful to those of us who have died, experts have suggested that the plague may have been the one positive in the economy last year. Since returning to the throne 3 years ago, we have fought hard to repeal the oppressive tax policies of the previous administration and replace them with the new welfare programs led by Robin and his merry men. Thank you, Robin. Of course, I'm referring to the program of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. There has been a strong emphasis on wealth equality over the past few years, and I think this emphasis on fairness has played a major role in the decreasing disparity between the most wealthy and the most poor. Robin's pillagers are constantly on the lookout to make sure that anyone in the top 50% of wealth holders gets a continual pillaging until they drop below that watermark. I am pleased to say that as of this morning, there is not a single person left in the top 50%. The coming year promises to be a year of more staunch equality among our own peasantry, and however hard we are hit by the disastrous forces of the economic consequences, we will all suffer more equally.
Thank you, King Richard. Now I'd like to comment on the year ahead, and then we'll take some time for questions. Looking forward, we definitely see some areas of major risk for the economy. First of all, with our current mortality trend, total overemployment could continue to grow and get out of hand. Our economic advisors have questioned whether our people could sustain anything over 2.2 jobs per capita over the long term. Secondly, with the lucrative commissions now paid to pillagers, the migration of workers from farming and construction jobs to the pillaging sector could result in majorly reduced production, which could lead to increased hunger and decreases in wealth. Lastly, we really don't know how effective our program for catapult safety tax credits will be in reducing the number of total catapult fatalities, despite the fact that nearly every catapult owner currently claims the credit. We also see a major risk in the fact that we now have over 600 pillagers for a total population of only 1,206, which number of course includes the 600 pillagers. What this has meant is that pillagers are actually being hired to pillage the homes and families of the more wealthy pillagers who have worked in the program long enough to hoard away some significant commissions. What is worse is that we now have illegal pillagers coming across the border from Knotwood to take advantage of our pillaging programs, and this too will continue to have a negative effect on the economy. So the year 1257 appears to be somewhat bleak, as well as we follow our current trends, and now I'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Hello, this is Piers Plowman from the Weekly Parchment, and I have a question for King Richard. King Richard, Your Highness, you mentioned earlier that there was not a single person left in the top 50% of wealth holders. And well, I was doing the math and...
King, I could go ahead and fill this one. I'll say this, that is correct. In fact, the King and I both find ourselves in the poorest 25% of the population.
Yes, but wouldn't that mean that new people move up into the top 50%?
Yes, that is also correct.
So wouldn't that mean that there are people in the top 50%?
No. Those people would have also been pillaged and would also have fallen out of the top 50%. Let's go on to the next question. Yes, Maiden Fairchild.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned there was a lucrative commission program that was to explain for why workers were moving from farming and manufacturing over to pillaging. Would you care to comment on the structure of that commission program? Thank you.
Yes, no problem. The commission is 50%.
So you're saying they get to keep 50% of whatever they collect?
That's correct.
Don't you think that commission rate may be a little high? I mean, given that 82% of the kingdom's wealth was redistributed?
Young lady, I think the economic studies speak for themselves. You have to have a middle class to grow the economy. There is no faster way to grow the middle class than to take money and just simply give it to them. And this is exactly what our righteous pillaging program accomplishes.
But I think I was asking about whether or not the commission rates were too high.
Yes, I was coming to that. Originally when the program was started, the commission rate was 15%, but as the rich got poorer and poorer, we started to hear complaints that there simply wasn't enough wealth to put food on the table of the pillagers at only 15%, and so the rate steadily increased to where it is today at 50%. Next question.
Yes, hello, my name is Roger Godbird from Monthly News. News when you need it.
And I have a question for the king.
King Richard, Your Highness, you spoke about repealing the oppressive tax policies of the previous administration. I assume you're talking about your brother?
Yes.
Yes, well, I was wondering if the kingdom-sponsored pillaging program would be seen as equally oppressive as Prince John's tax policies. I mean, you did say that 82% of the kingdom's wealth was redistributed, and Prince John's tax policies never came close to that. And although people did have to work a little bit harder, there was some economic growth, and there wasn't quite so much hunger.
Your Highness, do you mind if I go ahead and take this question? Sir Godbird, if I may, Prince John's tax policies were targeted at the poor and the middle class, those who could least afford to pay those taxes, while the rich were being invited to lavish parties at the castle. Our wealth redistribution program targets the rich, where wealth is redistributed from the rich to the poor, those who were targeted by the oppressive tax policies of Prince John.
Yes, forgive me, but aren't you now pillaging that money back from the poor people? And aren't you now creating an entirely new class of people by sucking wealth out of the economy?
Sir, wait, are you suggesting we should go back to the old ways, where the rich lived in castles and the poor middle class ate dung?
But it seems like there used to be a little more wealth in the system, and it seems like we were all a little bit better off than we are right now.
My dear sir, all human wealth is relative. We are all better off when we are all equal, when we are all in the middle class. Now let's go to the next question.
Hi, Piers Plowman again. With so many of the population focused on redistribution of wealth, don't you fear that production levels could fall even further? I mean, since pillages don't actually produce anything?
Possibly, but we only see risk in the farming and building sectors. We actually do see potential growth in the budding industry of home security. In fact, many of our pillages have actually been moonlighting as home security officers.
Wait, you mean they go to work actually protecting the homes that they would otherwise be pillaging?
Yes, that's correct. Now, the downside of this is that they're actually taking wealth away from the homeowner when they are paid their wages, and so when the actual pillages show up, there's actually less wealth to take.
But don't you see that as a conflict of interest?
Yes, I do. But with the declining farming and building, I would actually look to home security as a potential positive for the economic future. Let's move on to another question.
Yes, I have a question for King Richard. Your Highness. To what do you attribute the increase in catapulting accidents, and what effect do you believe this will have on the economy?
Yes, well, there are not necessarily accidents in the strict sense of the term. Because of the kingdom bailout of the catapult makers industry, we have fought hard to ensure that catapults are affordable for every household. And as a result, several individuals have actually purchased catapults to use in their own home defense, and they simply have not had the required training. And as a result, there have been several fatalities as a result of catapult misuse.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you for coming.
This has been the briefing on the economic state of affairs for the Nottingham Shire.